I'll welcome you guys back into my video. I will also say that for this topic, I'll teach you how to really escalate in life. You have to understand, to escalate in life, you have to realize that you never be degrading. I never need you to be degrading. I never need you to be anybody who's losing time. I need you to realize that in life, you have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive your actions and what you've done. Stop wasting time and stop distracting yourself with everything going on. Many people are going online and acting as leaders. I promise you, many people are acting all the way around. I promise you that you never act. You have to just lift. I promise you that I can see people speaking for 20 minutes so that somebody can start speaking to introduce themselves. That's so slow. You have to understand that you need to be a person who's really quick on your toes. You need to realize that to escalate in life and lift up other people, it's really to really grow. You have to understand that growth is the fundamental basis of doing everything. Those people who are loving life more are really going to let go more. They're going to dive to the past. You stop wasting time. I never need you to degrade people. I never need you to go into conversation and start developing any sense of wasting time. I never need you to waste time. I need you to lift from what you're doing. I need you to realize that you go and focus on yourself more than others, and that way you will never ever be degrading. I need you to understand though that when you do this, you're more focusing on Jesus Christ than anything else. Make Jesus Christ and something above yourself more in terms of life. When you put yourself first, you are saying that you're putting something higher than yourself first. I need you to do that. I need you to realize that in my life, I have Jesus as number one. I realize though that when you're around people, I promise you you're going to be degrading. I promise you that you are just going to degrade people. I promise you that you will be very ashamed and that you'll show sympathy and that you will follow the crowd. I promise you that when you're living alone though, I need you to invest more time into yourself to be alone. I realize that when you're alone, you're going to be more of a leader. I promise you that when people are around you, I promise you they're going to influence you to degrade people and fool around and joke around and waste time. I promise you that it's peer pressure. I promise you that you have a challenge now and a battle to get away from the crowd. You have to figure a way in order for yourself to do that. You have to understand that I can do it in a journal. I can write it all down. I can start planning my life today in a journal and start writing all these words down to help my life grow. It's that simple. You start word after word. You have to understand, if you're a person who never went to school and you can still speak English and your language, I promise you that you can still write. I promise you that if you do not learn how to write, I promise you then you are screwed. You understand? I promise you that you need to write. You need to write. I promise you, although, that you can do video work. You can do much faster when you can also write something down. You have to realize that writing ideas is everything. I write value constantly every single day wherever I am in life. I need to be able to progress in my life. I need to be able to let go of the past and let go of those people who are degrading. I was a degrading person. I only learned from the crowd. I was too much into the crowd. They're just wasting time. They're just degrading people. They're having sex and doing nothing about it. They're just going around to have sex. They're just drinking alcohol and poisons and they don't care. I never can be around those people. I can never be around those people. I have to go my own way in Jesus Christ, and I have to be able to do these videos, and I have to be able to get ahead of the crowd. I have to realize that no matter what, I'm very successful. I'm not sure of anything though. Although no matter what, I still grow. I realize that no matter what, I'm always sure of growth. I'm always sure that I can grow. I realize no matter what though, that I know nothing. I'm never sure. I'm never sure because I leave room for improvement. You have to understand that I'm contradictory like that. I'd rather never be sure. I although will say that Jesus was a person who was very sure of himself. I promise you that you can only be sure of yourself when you're growing. I promise you, although, that when you block people and their information from your life, I promise you that you can never be sure. I'm a person who knows nothing. I'm always open-minded though. I'm always growing. I'm always doing something to help the next person succeed. I promise you the more I help them succeed, I promise you the more I help myself succeed in Jesus Christ's name. I promise you it's like the quote from Zig Ziglar. The more you help them get what they want, you will get ultimately what you want. I promise you that's what it's all about. I promise you that the more I help them, I realize the more I help myself. You need to be that type of person. You need to be that type of person that is just going to be with yourself and let go all day. I mean, you will learn something throughout the day. I promise you that if you never write it down and have a journal about it and about your day, I promise you that you've taught nothing all day long. I promise you that if you never document anything in a video, audio, or writing, or even in a quote, I promise you that you never even started a book either. I mean, you are never even an author. I promise you that you never even started to write anything down. I promise you, although, when you do this, you're very unsuccessful. I promise you that I write a journal every single day. I write and write and write and write and write. I have to. I have to realize no matter what that I realize that most of the people never care about me. I promise no matter what, although, that I still lift. I'm still not a hater. I'm not degrading. I'm lifting myself up and I'm loving my life. I promise you that masturbation though is degrading. I promise you that you learn nothing through masturbation. I promise you those people who masturbate are never escalate. I promise you in the act of masturbation is no growth. I mean, you have to understand that it's pleasure. You have to understand that sex is also something that's a comfort zone. I mean, when you go without sex in life, you realize that you can grow much more. I realized that Jesus was never having sex. I realized Jesus was never masturbating. I realized Jesus was never degrading people. I realized that it's that kind of journey that you have to live. I promise you that the 99% of the world will be degrading people. I promise you that you never need to do that. You need to be more like Jesus and just lift. I promise you that in times of temptation where you're about to get tempted to degrade someone because they're dying, you have to understand that you start lifting those people instead. I mean, you find a way to lift them. I mean, you find a way to go around so that you never have to degrade them. I promise you that when you do this, you're never letting yourself down. I promise you when you start degrading them, you're actually degrading yourself. I mean, you're wasting time. I promise you when you teach them something, I promise you that way you can become a better person. I promise you that in life you must be teaching 24/7. I mean, the words that come out of your mouth, every single minute of every single day, of every moment with anybody, must be uplifting. I mean, you just have to keep doing that. I mean, if you don't know how to uplift, you have to start writing it down and how to uplift people. You have to understand that you have to figure out how to uplift people. You have to figure out how to succeed. You have to figure out how to be open-minded. You have to figure out everything. You have to understand that I'll give you the ideas. You have to understand, although, that you have to go and figure out more anyway. I mean, I can give you some skills. You have to go and apply it. I mean, I cannot apply it for you. You understand? I apply it for myself in Jesus' name. You have to understand that those people who are very smart and intellectual are the people who are really, let's say, doing Jesus' work. You understand? I mean, the smartest people in the world are the people who communicate the fastest and understand the most and also know nothing. I mean, they always keep learning. They're always open-minded. I mean, the more you read in daily life, I promise you, it's going to give you ideas. I need you to start teaching only. I need you only to start teaching because that's the next barrier in your life. I mean, no matter what, if you're teaching, you still have to teach. You still have to learn how to teach. You still have to read. I promise you that reading is a foundational journey to give you ideas about what's going on. I mean, you have to be ahead of the crowd. You have to be ahead of the government systems today. You have to be ahead of the justice system. You have to be ahead of people. You have to be ahead of everything, including Jesus. You have to be ahead all the time. You have to do the best. I mean, Jesus vouches for you to be better than Jesus. You understand? You have to understand that those people who are just degrading are just losing in life. I mean, they're just losing and they have no friends and they're just really, really a negative individual. I mean, I never need you to be negative. I need you to realize that you go and invest time alone and you be with yourself all day. I mean, you have no sympathy for yourself because you're still growing. You have to understand that because I travel the world, you can. You have to realize that you will. You have to realize you are traveling the world now. You understand? You have to believe in yourself. You have to see that no matter what, I've managed to lose 47 kilos. How did I do that? I never degraded myself in food. I was never degrading myself. I was disciplined more and more and more, and I was lifting myself the whole time. I may have been called a pig and whatever. I didn't care. I lost the weight. I realized that many people joke around with me. I realized I never joke around. I've got nothing to joke around with. I realized they're degrading people. I realized they're always degrading somebody. I never care about that. I realized that many people are with women right now. I never care about them either. I never care about those women. I realized that no woman is here sitting on my bed. You understand? I never care. I realized that in your day, you're going to be alone. I promise you that nobody's going to grow you. I promise you nobody's going to tell you what to do. I promise you nobody is going to judge you like you can judge you. I promise you, you must never judge you. I promise you, although, that when people judge you, it's because they're degrading you. I promise you, everybody in life is degrading you except those people lifting you. I promise you that you just go to where those people are lifting you and you'll learn more and more throughout time on how to escalate. You have to understand that no matter what, that escalation is something to do with being alone, where you can never ever be around other people, although when you are, you must lift them in every single word and you must never waste time. I mean, never be stupid. I mean, never ever condole yourself into a stupid way. I promise you that a stupid way is something that's nothing in terms of life. I mean, you're never teaching anything. I promise you, although when you have temptations where you may distract yourself to masturbate and degrade someone online, you have to figure out a better way. You have to understand that you let go and let God. I mean, make a discipline for yourself and say, I will never again do this. I mean, what you never do is what I do. All right, what you never do, I'll say, for example, I will never masturbate to anything on social media anymore. I promise you that you make that discipline and you stick to it. I promise you, although that will help you throughout time to let go and let God. How would you do that? I promise you that next time a woman or man messages you online, I promise you that you never go to your pants to pull them down so that you can chat with them and so that you can masturbate. You have to understand, no matter what, that you must be a person who's really living life. You also must never be ashamed. I promise you that no matter what, that anything that's got to do with pleasure, I mean, you have to get rid of it. I mean, even food. You have to understand that you eat less and less throughout time. You have to eat less and less food and drink. I promise you the more food and drink you eat, I promise you the faster you die. I promise you that it's been proven. You have to understand that Jesus can go 40 days and 40 nights without food. You can too. I mean, Jesus can go 40 days and 40 nights without food and drink. I mean, you have to understand that is the quality of a long life. You have to understand what that is. I mean, most people in life and nobody else has been able to do it. You have to understand that it's been proven by Jesus. You have to understand that you can do it. You have to improve your communication skills daily. I promise you that when you have nothing to do, you come and do a video. I promise you when you have nothing to do, you go and write in your journal. I promise you when you have nothing to do, you go and create some music. I mean, you just go and do something. I promise you when you have nothing to do, you make sure that you upload your content that you've taken throughout the day. I mean, you may have went around Brisbane or Australia or the world in Spain and you've taken photos and travel photos. You have to go upload all those 5,000 photos. I mean, daily, you need more content and you need to do it for free, although you need to invest more time in yourself. I promise you that while you're traveling, I promise you that you need to do some motivational videos and content in order to be much better than yesterday. I promise you many people are going to call you a disgrace. I promise you many people are going to call you nothing. I never need you to conform to those people. I never need you to believe in them. I need you to understand that you go Jesus' way. I promise you Jesus will never degrade you. I promise you Jesus will only lift you. I promise you that those people who are lifting are honestly the most successful people on the planet. I realize that many people are downlifting people and degrading while they're in fame. You have to understand that fame is never success. You have to understand that what success is really Jesus. You have to understand that anybody who's more like Jesus is more successful. I promise you that you can be famous and be nothing like Jesus. You understand? You have to walk more Jesus' path, and you have to realize that it's a slow journey. You have to use Jesus in everything. I promise you that when you're alone, you look to Jesus to help you. I promise you, even though you may crave something of pleasure, you never need it. You need to realize that it's about being more disciplined. You have to understand that Jesus will always, I promise you that Jesus will always feed you the best material of wisdom in the planet. I promise you there's a difference between material and wisdom. You need more wisdom in life. I promise you the phone that I record myself on is a material. I mean, it's a plastic item. I mean, many people go to a 9-to-5 job to work for plastic dollars. I mean, they're working for possessions of the world. I promise you that you never need to do that either. I promise you that you need better privileges, and in order to have that, you need to go and teach more. You have to go and increase your happiness. You have to stop talking to women and men in a degrading way. And in order for you to do that, you have to realize that you either lift up in conversation or you never talk to them at all. You understand? I mean, you have to go and test everything out. Although when you realize that you're degrading people, you have to realize that you're really never really lifting them. You're just being a way for you to say that you're shaming them for some reason. You never do that. You never shame them. You understand? You never shame people. I promise you that when you shame people, it comes back to haunt you. I promise you that no matter what, that you keep growing. You never shame people. You have to understand that when you're having fun, you're masturbating. You understand? I promise you when you're having fun, I promise you when you're having fun, you're watching pornography and doing drugs and going to the nightclub. I promise you I never need you to have fun. I never need you to have fun. I need you to go and do something productive, which is do some journaling and writing and better your communication skills every single day, and go and watch some mentors and go read something. I mean, go and sleep it off too sometimes. I mean, go and sleep it off. I mean, where the world is going everywhere and degrading people, you have to realize that you never go and follow them. You go and follow Jesus' path. You have to realize that you're never those people who are always degrading women and men. I promise you that you'll always find a woman who can be degrading in life. I promise you that the one who is really rare in terms of only uplifting you, I promise you it's really rare to find one. I promise you, although I found Jesus though. I found Jesus, I realized no matter what that I never need a woman in my life. I promise you no matter what that I stick to it alone with Jesus. I walk Jesus' path, and I realize that I always prosper and succeed more because I'm ahead of the time. I'm ahead of what's going on. I realize I always update myself. I'm always curious about life. I have to be a viper in a way that I'm positive. I have to be really quick. I have to be that leopard who's really going for the prey. I'm going for the prey in terms of a positive way. I'm always positive. I'm always the prey that is doing better. I promise you I never get eaten by other people. I promise you I never get eaten by other people. I'm never even the prey. You have to understand that I never die. I never confuse myself either. I'm always lifting myself in my own communication. I'm the person who is really, really strange and also growing at the same time. I mean, there's nothing strange about me anyway. You have to realize that when you're negative, you have to realize that you've just degraded yourself in a way. You have to undo it. You have to realize that you've tangled yourself in a string. You have to go and find every single pathway in order to untangle everything that you've done. I realize that in this video, I've lifted myself all the way. I realize no matter what, I'm rich or better. I'm always going towards Jesus. I promise you that no matter what, you just need one woman or man. I promise you that when you can do that, you can always be lifting them. in the moment. I promise you, although, that there are some degrading moments between a man and wife. You understand? I mean, between a husband and wife, I promise you that there can be some degrading moments. You have to understand that no matter what, that you just be lifting. I promise you, although when you're having sex with your wife or husband, I promise you that you have uplifting sex. I promise you never have degrading sex. You have to understand that. You have to understand that there's a difference. You have to understand that many husbands and wives are degrading themselves while they're together. I promise you they're really, really disgusting. I promise you they're never really leaders. I promise you they're doing what everybody else is doing. You have to go and tune out from what they're doing and go tune in to what Jesus is doing every single day. I let go and let God all the time. I have no sympathy for those people who never have a life. I have no sympathy. You have to understand that sympathy is degrading. I promise you, people who have sympathy are always people who are homeless on the street. I mean, they're degrading anybody. I mean, they're ungrateful for your life. I mean, there are many of them. I mean, more, you understand? I mean, more in life. You have to understand that more is equity. I need you to understand that equity is Jesus. I need you to understand that those people who have nothing to degrade about are people who, you have to realize, are lifting up only. I mean, you need to lift up. I promise you that you will maybe have a degrading moment in your life. I need you to pick up. I need you to pick up and figure it out. I need you to realize that when you're mainly around women or men, you may get degrading because you somehow cannot grow. You have to grow though. You can grow. You just have to learn the skills. You have to learn more ideas. You have to read more. I promise you that reading can get you to growth. I promise you that first it starts in the realm of reading. I promise you that reading helps you to understand more and connect the dots, and also fills your brain up with stimulation, with knowledge, to eventually go and take the action that you need to go and succeed. I had to read for 5 years before I even started these videos and everything. I promise you it's a slow journey. I promise you that I have time. I have over the next 73 years to just do my passion and relax. I realize no matter what, that for my process in life, it's a slow journey and it's an enjoyable one. I promise you that I may have no sex. I realize that no matter what, that sex really is my passions. I mean, it's really my growth. I mean, it's really this video. I mean, this video for me is a sex routine. I promise you, I show up every single day as much as I can. I do as much content as I can. I today went into Brisbane and I took 2,200 photos of Brisbane for free. I mean, you would love to see Brisbane for free. You understand? I mean, no matter what, that you can always go and check out how Brisbane is quickly. You can always check out the photos and then you can see for yourself, are you interested to come over here? You understand? You have to understand that I go and do it for free. Like a tourist, I went around and I did some branding photos as well. I did some branding photos today. I did some travel photos. I also did a motivational video, which is the first time in 3 months. I mean, I'm more successful today than ever. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I realize no matter what, when I've got nothing to do and when I pin myself down, it's usually when I start to really get sympathetic. I mean, I start to get degrading. I admit it, although I catch myself. And I start to escalate and I start to do what Napoleon Hill said. I mean, I think and grow rich. I mean, I go and transmute that degrading moment into a video. I go and teach people how to never to do that. I promise you then, I pick myself up, I let go and let God. I promise you no matter what, I'm happier. I'm always happier in my Christ Jesus. And I now see that many people have this woman and they're going around everywhere. I promise you no matter what, I don't care. I promise you that it's more about Jesus for me. I realize no matter what, that I was a person suffering many times because I seen all these women go their separate ways and never toward my direction. I realize no matter what, that it's usually that they missed out. I mean, they missed out on someone beautiful in life. I realize I don't care. I realize I've got Jesus. I realize now it's about freedom. I realize it's about freedom. I realize that in my videos, I can plan ahead. I realize I can plan ahead. I can show you the way and the future in the moment. I realize no matter what, that I can plan my life and everything because I deserve to be more successful. I deserve that in my life. I realize no matter what, that I'm more successful in life. I'm always more, I'm doing more. I'm always doing more and I become more because I'm doing more. I realize that's everything. I realize that's key. I realize that people are going to degrade themselves and degrade themselves and degrade themselves and show you sympathy and feel sorry for you, and they're going to show you remorse, and they're going to show you mercy. I mean, they're going to let you off. I mean, they're going to give you excuses and complaints, and they're going to give you resentment and hate anyway. I mean, when you're degrading yourself, I promise you that when you're degrading yourself, I promise you what's going to happen is they're going to hate you anyway. I promise you they're trying to catch you out. I promise you they're trying to catch you out in a way that they show for it that you are degrading, and now you will never ever be around them anymore. I promise you, although that they're degrading, and you can see it. You can see they're degrading. I promise you, although that you forgive them. I promise you, although they will never forgive you. I promise you they will never forgive you, because you can grow, you can forgive. I promise you that only those who grow can forgive. I promise you that those people who resent and have hate and sympathy in their lives and never know how to grow are the ones who are showing sympathy all the time and degrading. I mean, they're always watching pornography and are always masturbating and doing pleasure activities and drugs and alcohol and going to nightclubs and still following the crowd. I mean, my biological family is following the crowd. I mean, my biological family's family is all degrading themselves. You have to understand, no matter what, that you just never degrade yourself. I'm never degrading myself. I realized no matter what, I stepped up through a boundary over here. I realized I learned something. I realized that my family's family is no such thing. You have to understand that no matter what, I'm such thing. I'm such thing in life, that no matter what, it's really that my family, in terms of my biological family, is degrading themselves. I'm not degrading myself. I realized I skipped the boundary, although I realized that I degraded myself. Although picked it up, I realized where I am in life. I realized that there's no such thing as degrading in my life. You have to understand that those people who are really doing nothing to succeed and just wasting time, I promise you they're the people who are just having fun throughout life. I mean, they're just having fun and they're happy to watch the stars. I promise you they're happy to watch people on television and speak about them and gossip about them and do nothing all their life and be pinned down by life, because then they start to complain about how the world is. I promise you that you chose your life. I promise you that every day you're choosing your life. What are you going to do? Are you going to degrade yourself, or are you going to lift people today? I promise you that the more people you lift over the next 5 years, I promise you your next 5 years is going to look the same. I promise you, although that if you're degrading people for 5 years, your next 5 years will also look the same. You understand? I promise you, although that you just be the person who's uplifting. I promise you that you go and build compound interest, which Albert Einstein says, and he says that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe, which is just another motto to say, when you grow, you will build compound interest, and compound interest will make you powerful when you're growing. I promise you, no matter what, that is all that Albert Einstein is really trying to say. I realize no matter what, that is how you go about everything. You have to understand that it's really, let's connect the dots over here. I mean, I have music production over here, I have life coaching, I have my phones, I have 2 phones. I realize that 2 phones never make me happier. I realize it's what I can do with the 2 phones that make me happier. I mean, I use one phone for my finance. I have to do that. I realize that without my financial career, I can do nothing. I realize no matter what, that it's important to have finances in your life. I mean, those people who get wealthier are the ones who are getting healthier. So in order for me to get healthier, I need to document everything in terms of my finances and where everything is going. I mean, now I have money in wisdom, and I realize that it's really never about the possessions anymore. I realize it's more about growth and freedom. I realize it's more about Jesus now. I realize it's more about my I. I love I. I love I. I must speak I more in my life. I must do everything in my power to go into my journal today, so that I can go and write more of my I intent inside my I factor, so that I can do something, that I can be more powerful, because I deserve to really love my life. I seen also today, I seen her, I never love her, I love myself more. I love myself more because I love Jesus Christ. I love myself so that I have to go to travel somewhere so that I can do something. I have to figure out a better way. I realize no matter what, I have to ask myself a question over here. How do I do better? I realize I can do better this way. 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 I realize now, since I have all these ideas over here, I realize that now I can start planning something around it. I realize that I figured out something now because that woman over there really was degrading me. I realize I now have to go and really speak to her to start lifting her up because I realize that she's got the wrong idea. I realize that no matter what, I realize in my journal, I say also that there is no wrong and right. There is no wrong or right in life. I realize that I just grow because my I alone is going to be more and more the more I start to develop. I need to also realize that I can do this in a video. I can also realize that I can just teach people how to journal in a video. I need to realize that I can also go to a seminar. I can go to a seminar. I can go to seminars. I can go to the cinemas today. I can also realize no matter what, I can go to see someone. I realize no matter what, I have to ask myself here, what is the most productive trait that I can go and really learn something today? I realize I can go to the seminar today because out of these three, I promise you that I may meet a leader who's really going to give me some information. I promise you no matter what that I see though, that when they are really giving a seminar, I realize they're going to give me some knowledge. I may as well give them 70 possessions in terms of $70 in possessions, which is really plastic money. I realize that I give them that, I may get something in return that's really going to give me an idea where I can start to help myself self-educate myself. I realize now, since I did go to the event, I now realize I learned so much. I learned about confidence. I learned about courage. I met this beautiful woman and she was uplifting me, and she's Indian. I realized, and she's beautiful. I realized she's married though. I although was lifting up with her, I was her friend. I realized no matter what that I met her husband too. I met her kids. I see her kids are named Anne and Danny. I realized no matter what that I see that they're very beautiful. I wish that I have this kind of woman in my life. I just need to ask Jesus Christ more about how to really do everything. I realize I see Jesus Christ is doing this. I have to start doing this too. I have to realize, since I'm writing in my journal now, I realize I can do something over here where I can go and talk to someone who can help me to do something so that I can really learn something over here. I realize I have to go on YouTube to do that. I realize I have 20 mentors now that can help me do this. I realize that I have Brian Tracy right now. I'll just go and see because he sent me a nice beautiful video. I have an update every single day from Brian Tracy. I realize I subscribe to his channel. I realize I talk like this way. I talk this way inside of my journal. I speak I did this, I did that, I went this way, I have to speak to her. What is going to help me with this one? I realize I have to do this. I realize no matter what, you have to understand that it's about that. You have to understand it's about escalating your life. I just shown you how I speak in my journal. I just speak I this, I that, I this, I that. I get so interested in in my journal. In my journal. I realize no matter what, that each and every single pause in my sentence, as you see right now, I start this sentence with the I realize I have another pause. You must start another sentence with a you also. How does that feel? I can also ask a question and teach you to communicate through the I and you and the question method. I realize that I never start with what. I never start with how. You have to understand that it's really I start with I, you, and a question. I now must teach you how to communicate. I will now show you that when you communicate, I do it this way. I will teach you based on my story, how I, who is more important than my, is going to really show you how it goes. You have to understand that it's really that way. You have to understand that it's really just speak one word after another word, and you just take the time to really show yourself that you can really escalate. You then put your face on the camera, you start to communicate in the slowest fashion that can make you learn. That can make you learn. I mean 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 that can make you learn. I mean, you never degrade yourself this way. I mean, when you're speaking your I understand that you can never degrade yourself. I promise you, although, that those people who are really degrading themselves are the people who are really never teaching anything. I mean, they're never teaching their I mean, they're never teaching on video. I mean, they're never teaching the you in action, which states you must go and learn, otherwise you'll never be loved. I promise you, I just gave you a quote. I promise you, although, that you must ask a question. How does that feel? You have to understand that now it's dialogue. You have to understand now you're asking them a question, which is a growing question always. I promise you that every single question is never a stupid question. I promise you every single question leads to something. I promise you, although, that those people who never ask questions are degrading people. I promise you, although, that those people who never have the I in their life are degrading. I promise you, although, that those people who never use the you in action are never doing anything at all. I promise you, when you're speaking your I with people, I promise you that you can also never degrade yourself. I promise you, you'll never be able to degrade yourself because you're still using your I intent and you're still having fun, although you're really growing also at the same time. I mean, you can go and talk to people and you can be sort of degrading in a way that you're still using your I. I mean, you're still never degrading because you're using your I and you're loving yourself. I mean, you're lifting yourself in the conversation while they are degrading themselves. I mean, they're degrading themselves in a way that they're just stupid. I mean, they're stupid because they're never really into you, and you have to understand that when that happens, you have to understand they're never really into themselves. You have to understand that it's because when you use your I and you and question in format, you have to understand that you just keep doing it. I realize no matter what, that when they're degrading, you can speak in a degrading way with the I, and you can still make sure that you're never degrading yourself. I mean, although when you start to masturbate though, you have to realize that it's just pleasure. I mean, that's degrading. I mean, you have to realize that you just never degrade yourself. I mean, you have to understand that masturbation is a pleasure-seeking activity. I promise you that anything that's pleasure-seeking activities is a degrading moment. I mean, even food and drink is a degrading moment because you have to go and eat food and drink. I mean, it's never growing you. You have to understand though that it never grows you. I mean, food and drink is never going to teach you something alone. I promise you that you eat. I promise you you live. I promise you you live. I promise you that you have to eat and drink. I promise you have to eat and drink. I will say though that it's never going to teach you anything. I say no matter what that you go to find someone who's really going to teach you something. I realize no matter what, I'm 28, although I'm number one in my life in Jesus Christ's name. You have to understand that no matter what, I put Jesus Christ in my life. I'm happier with Jesus Christ as number one in my life. I now realize no matter what, that there is no such thing as numbers. I realize that numbers are evil. You have to understand that it's really that you really figure out that you are just never evil. You have to be number one anyway. You have to be number one in Jesus Christ's name. You just put Jesus Christ first. I promise you that numbers in this life have nothing to do with anything. I promise you, although, that it has also something to do with helping your life. I promise you that numbers is mathematics. I promise you that numbers build the world. I promise you, although, that wisdom has nothing to do with numbers, although it does. I promise you, although, that wisdom is something that you can never see. I promise you that what you see today is the world. I promise you that you never go and masturbate to the world, because otherwise you'll be masturbating to a plastic. I promise you even that you can treat a person as a plastic material because you masturbate to them. I promise you that it's the same as you masturbating to the spoon or fork. You understand? Because you objectify that. I mean, an objectified persona is a plastic fork. I mean, it's an object. You objectify, you then realize you are a plastic fork. I mean, you have no feelings. I mean, you never care for the person. I mean, you're a twig. I mean, you're a noun. I mean, you can be touched. I mean, people can get to you. You understand? You have to realize that when you're this, you'll never ever be satisfied. You'll never ever have anything in life. I mean, you'll never move. I mean, you have no life force in you. I mean, you're plastic. I mean, you can never even talk back to me. I mean, you have no skills. I mean, I have to lift you in order to do anything for you. I have to lift you. I mean, are you able to lift me up, fork? I promise you that this fork will never even talk to me. You have to understand that when people are masturbating to people, you have to understand that people are treating other people as forks. I mean, they're killers. I mean, how do I treat a fork right now? I place it down, I never talk to her again. I never talk to the fork ever again. I already see that it's an object. I promise you that when people are masturbating though to other people, I promise you they're objectifying the person in a way that they're never going to talk to them. I mean, they're killers. I mean, they never lift the person. I mean, you have to understand, is there such thing as me lifting up the fork? I mean, when you masturbate to someone, you have to understand that you treat them like a fork. I promise you'll never lift them either. You have to understand that is a teaching. You have to understand that those people who are always masturbating in their life never have a life. I was a masturbator. I was a person who was watching pornography. I realized that it got me nowhere. I realized it got me nowhere. I realized that I was always losing. I was always a fraud in terms of life. I was always a fraud. You have to understand, I was always fat. I was always a loser. I was always a drug addict. I was a junkie. I had no life. I remember myself smoking. I realized I'm a non-smoker. I had no life. I realized I see myself. I was stupid. I could see my face and how that life was going. I mean, I was nowhere close to this person. I'm still a yes in my life for Jesus Christ. I realized that I'm not a non-smoker or better. I'm a non-smoker or better. I'm a non-smoker. I realize no matter what, I never get confused. I have to realize that I stay on top of my life. I let go and let God. I realized today that I went around Brisbane for 4 hours. I was really walking. I was also taking photos. I realized that I found my nice beautiful spot somewhere where I can take also some branding shots. I realized that it was a time in terms of the time is now. I went and done it. I had a nice beautiful time. I'm still having a beautiful time. I realized that I only ever learn and grow when I'm doing something that is teaching. I realized anything else is stupid. I realized that I, in my journal, am always speaking my I everywhere. I now, for example, after this video, would speak something in my journal such as this. I will honestly now do this. I realized today I did this nice beautiful video for these people. I now can realize that I have to learn something. I have to learn something. I have to go to Grant Cardone. I have to go to Grant Cardone. I have to see what that guy's doing. I realize that guy has very much a persona. I realize no matter what, I go into the video. I mean, I already take action to go because I set it in my journal. I mean, the journal shows me where to take action. I now am watching Grant Cardone. I now am rich or better. I realize no matter, I just say it. I see that this is what Grant Cardone's saying about real estate. I realize that he's never really vibing with me over here. I realize although that he's giving me some free information about his background and how his life is with the possessions he has. I realize now that since I live my life, I realize that it's never the life for me. I realize that what he does behind the scene though, in terms of freedom and the free work around Jesus Christ and his health, is what I really do respect. I do respect the guy that he is better than yesterday in terms of his communication and also his health. I realize that is something that inspires me, and he's also every single day getting up on YouTube and doing something for free. I then realized that he's always pricing his content. I realized the guy's an idiot. I realized the guy's putting a $7 possession, or I realized he's putting $7, which is plastic money, on his book. I realized his book's worth more than that. I realized I have to go to Tony Robbins. I have to go and see what Tony Robbins is doing. I'll go and see Tony Robbins. I realize Tony Robbins is doing this. I realize the guy is really trying. I realize the guy has a magnificent idea in terms of how he has 30 people come to his house while he's interviewing Conor McGregor. I mean, now since the coronavirus is going on in June 2020, I realized that is a nice, beautiful idea where you can go and invite people to your house and still keep the show going. I mean, the show is that he is still going and doing more than anybody else in terms of life except for I. I mean, I'm doing much more than Tony Robbins. I realize, although, that it's much more inspiring to have somewhere to live, although I see how he has that real estate. I realize it's a mansion. I realize it's so big. I realize no matter what, I'll never live there. I realize that I'll never live there. I realize that it's more that I go and travel the world. I realize that I would rather be on the go and live anywhere around life than have one place to always come back to. I realize no matter what, that I just go and live my life anyway. I don't know what's going to happen. I just realize that my life is much better than Conor McGregor's. I realize no matter what, that guy, I see him, I see how he fights. I realize that Jesus will never fight. I realize that Jesus will never fight. I realize that I'd rather go and be more like Jesus though. I realize that Jesus is more inspiring. I see now that I am honest in how I speak here. I speak my I in everything I say. I realize that the more I communicate my I in between words, I realize the more I increase my I in confidence. I realize now that since I watched Tony Robbins and that interview, I realized I was really inspired by how Tony Robbins, during a crisis of a financial crisis around the world, is inviting people to his house and also has 50 screens in his house where he connects with a community and is literally doing his life coaching programs, which is his big events around the world, and he's doing it inside of his home, and people are just connecting with him in terms of on screen, and he's acting like it's the real thing. And I promise you it is, because now I see that he can transpire to go and put all this wisdom into online theory live. I mean, 26,000 people just joined his Instagram live. I mean, his YouTube video. I realized no matter what, that you can see it. I see the proof. I realized that Tony Robbins is never lying. I promise you, although, that since he has actually 50 people who are on screen and he can see them and he's doing this in front of them and he's saying, how are you, bro? How are you, bro? How are you, bro? I mean, he's got 4 screens. I mean, he's got 4 screens and I promise you, and he's naming them. I promise you, he's got people over his house. I promise you, I can see that Tony Robbins has some interest going. I promise you that the guy is really inspirational in that method. I don't know what inspires me though. I realize that it's really that he's just doing his content. I realize he's doing his passion. I realize he doesn't fucking care about the recession that's going on. I realize it's really that he's escalating. I realize he's learning how to escalate. I realize that it's all about journal and content. I realize that he's providing that. I realize he's really journaling at all, even though he's doing it. I realize no matter what, that you must do it anyway. I realize although that since he is putting in everything, I realize though that no matter what, there is no if in my life. I realize that I just see that Tony Robbins is really, really, let's say, foundational in spreading the word of Jesus Christ, and I see that he mentioned Jesus Christ in his words. I realize although that he interviews anybody, and I realize that those people are giving him sympathy, and I don't need those people in my life. I don't need those people who he interviews. I realize I just need to listen to Tony Robbins. I don't care about Conor McGregor and how they get success. I don't care about those people because I care about no violence. I care about no violence. I also care about how Conor McGregor gets the muscles. I love that. I love how he gets confident to, anyway, go and build himself up. I never fucking care about his whiskey business. I write in my journal. I, although, will show you that I'm never afraid of life. I will name them out. I realize no matter what, that I respect everybody. I just never care about the negative sides of people. I realize I may talk anything that's positive about the person. I will also label what I fucking dislike about those people. I realize no matter what, that it's just because I disagree with whiskey. I never drink it. I don't know why you'll give $5 of charity to Conor McGregor when you're going to poison the world with whiskey. I don't know why you're doing that. I don't know why you label yourself as a whiskey man. I promise you that you're going to be a nobody in 50 years. I promise you, although, that no matter what happens, that you go and figure out your life. I realize no matter what, that you guys who are watching this in my journal, I hope that you never go and drink whiskey, because you'll understand that when you drink whiskey, you'll never become a vegan. I promise you that vegans will never ever drink whiskey. You have to understand that you alone drinking whiskey will die 7 years earlier than those people who never drink it. because you'll understand that no matter what, the whiskey will never ever improve your life, and it's been proven. You have to understand no matter what, that those people who turn vegan because I can feel it, I'm vegan, I'll never ever drink whiskey because I've drank whiskey before. I understand what that is. I promise you, Conor McGregor is nowhere near a vegan. I understand him. I although see that he's dying. I understand that guy is going to die. I realize no matter what, that he's drinking whiskey. You have to understand that it's never the way to go. I also realize no matter what, that Tony Robbins inspires me. I realize that Tony Robbins inspires me because when I write my journal, I always can elaborate on everything. I realize no matter what, I can even do it on camera now. I realize that I can show examples of how to talk in my journal. I realize I've been speaking my eye all the way through this. I speak about myself all day long. I am proud of who I am in Jesus Christ's name. I realize no matter what, I can only be proud in the truth. I realize no matter what, that you guys realize you must go for Jesus Christ. You must realize that Jesus Christ never drank whiskey. You have to understand that Jesus Christ was never donating $5 to everybody. You have to realize that Jesus Christ was donating more than $5. You have to understand that $5 in terms of what Conor McGregor is giving is possessions in $5 and in plastic. You have to understand that Jesus will never give you plastic material. You have to understand that it's a scam. You have to understand that you go and follow Jesus now. You have to understand though that I see Tony Robbins and how he invites people into his house. I realize that no matter what happens, I can see it. I can see how he just keeps on doing his events. And even though his events are closed and in terms of the outside world, I promise you that you never go into the outside world because it's external. I promise you, although that he's doing it inside, and that's what's inspirational. I promise you what's inside is that he's solving his problems. I promise you that's inspiring. I promise you when you go outside though, that you are searching for other people to search. You're searching for other people to do it all for you. I realize that that is what sympathy is all about. I realize that you never go outside there. I realize that you never go outside to go and be a person of external factors. I need you to be a person who is really, really foundational in your life. I need you to realize that you look inside. I need you to be that person who's really, really looking to do a better life for yourself. I realize that no matter what, that Tony Robbins is doing that. I realize that he's inviting people to his house and doing his events. I realize no matter what, that he has 100 people and 26,000 people who are really watching him live. I realize that he has more people online watching him than in real life. I realize that he goes and walks around people in real life and he has around 3,000 people at his seminars. I realize now he has 26,000 online. I realize the guy also invites people to his podcast channels. He invites Conor McGregor and he has 40 audience people in his house. I realize that's inspirational, although I'll never do that. I'll never do that because I realize I have something better. I realize I'll never invest in a mansion. I realize no matter what, that I can see that. I realize that I understand that Tony Robbins has a jet. I realize that I'll never have one unless I get one for free. I realize no matter what, I never give possessions for a jet. I never care about that. I care about freedom. I care about Jesus more. I care about Jesus more than a jet. I care about more wisdom. I never care about a jet. I realize that jets really to impress other people. I realize no matter what, that when you have more possessions in your life, I realize that you're just trying to impress people. I realize that I never care about that. I never care about mansions. I never care to invite people into a mansion. I realize no matter what, I can invite people elsewhere. I can invite people to my Instagram instead. I realize that my Instagram is inspirational. I realize that anybody can talk with me in the same method. I realize I never have to do what Tony Robbins does. I realize no matter what, I only do what Jesus does. You understand? You have to realize that I speak that way in my journal. I just talk all day long. I realize that's an interesting story. I realize no matter what, that I taught something in that journal. I realize that I just put in a video though. You have to understand that I just made it up. I never made it up. You have to understand. I was really doing my journal. I'd write that in my journal. I only go about it in a way that I never degrade myself. I'm only speaking my I intent. I'm only speaking something that's really quality. I realize that you can see my face. I've got nothing against those people. I've got nothing against Conor McGregor, although I stand for the positive side of him. I never care about the negative. I'll tell him in his face that you're a stupid idiot for drinking whiskey. I promise you that he may get offended. I promise you he's a fighter. I promise you that he's violent. I will let him smash me. I realize that Jesus would go one-on-one with him and would let Conor McGregor knock Jesus out. You have to understand that Jesus will never fight him. I realize that is what a true man is. Once you let go, you let him. You understand? You let life. You let life and you let live. You understand what that means? You let him live. You let him live. You never cause drama. You never go to kill a person. You let the person live. You forgive the person for what they've done. Killings happen because the person's resenting about what that person has decided in life. I promise you that they're jealous of the person. I promise you that they forgot to forgive the person. I promise you that's why they killed him. I promise you that Jesus was killed because too many people were minding Jesus' business. I need you to understand that there's a quote going around, mind your own business. Because when you mind your own business, you're never focused on killing other people. You understand? I promise you they will focus more on Jesus than themselves. And that's why Jesus got killed. You have to understand that no matter what happens, that Jesus came into their life and realized that early on he was going to get killed. I realized that Jesus really lived life. I realized the person really escalated and can really teach you how to escalate even more. You have to realize no matter what that how to escalate, you have to realize that how to escalate is for life. It's a slow process. You have to understand that you now have learned how to escalate in a journal. You've also learned some techniques in terms of how I use my eye. You've learned my cues. You have to understand that you go and pick up my attitude and you go and write something inspirational in your journal. I promise you, I felt that one. I felt that beautiful inspiration there. You have to understand that no matter what, I learned something. I connected the dots. I gave you some value in that journal. You have to understand that I do this in a journal every single day. And for 1 year, I wrote 5,000 pages. You have to understand no matter what, that you write 5,000 pages in Roman Times size 12 fonts in a Microsoft Word document. I promise you, you write 5,000 pages, I promise you that you'll learn so much about yourself in a journal. I promise you it can take up to 5,000 words. I promise you write 5,000 words, you will be so much greater. I promise you for every 5,000 words that you write, I promise you, you can write 5,000 words. For 5,000 pages that you write 5,000 pages. I've written 5,000 pages in 1 year. You have to understand that means that in the course of my next 40 years, I realized 4 times 5, I can have 200,000 pages of content. Just in my journal. That's incredible. That's something to give for free. You can go and study me forever. I stand the test of time. You have to understand no matter what, that I go and upload it online, and in 50 years time, I download everything. I make sure that I'm safe. I make sure no matter what that I go and post it somewhere in 4 or 5 locations where it will never ever be penalized. Somebody may rob it off in one area and delete it. I may have it in 10 more areas of life where nobody can access it. Otherwise, no matter what, the link's always there. Otherwise, the link's always being given. Otherwise, that's the whole point. You have to realize that it's all about let's grow together and let's really realize that we need to escalate and let's have less pleasure in life. You have to understand that pleasure gets you nowhere. Every time that you do pleasure, you die. You're dying. You're resenting. You're really resenting. Pleasure is a resentful tactic. Pleasure is a way to say that you're never really resenting, although you are. Whereas no matter what, that many people pleasure life. I never need you to pleasure people. I need you to go and really never pleasure yourself either. Never get gratification for anything. Go and delay gratification. Delay it. You're going to grow from it. You have to understand that it's discomfort when you delay gratification, although you're going to grow. I matured so much because I'm able to just be on camera for 1 hour. I realized that at first, it was so much delayed gratification, although I can now do it easily. I trained my mind to be able to be on camera for 1 hour. I realized no matter what, I must plan it before time. I must be able to really, really escalate my videos to say I must do only 1 hour because I only plan for 1 hour in this video. I can never be doing extra. Although I can always do extra, I just realized I have to plan for it first. I have to say, I'll do extra in this other video. I'll do 2 hours this time. I'll be more mentally prepared than figuring out inside the video to do it. Because I may have had other plans in that extra hour. I mean, I may have something else to do. You have to plan it first before you execute. I mean, right now, I will plan for my life. Otherwise, no matter what, I'll go in my journal, I'll start doing something. I'll have to export this video. I have to upload it. I have to upload another 2,200 photos. Otherwise, no matter what, I still have time. I have all night to make another hour video. Otherwise, no matter what, I've planned it already. I have to realize that I can do another hour video. I realize I've already done 1 hour and 20 minutes before in terms of Brisbane. I went to Brisbane. I realize it's my motivational video 66. You can go and watch it. You have to realize that you can go to that way in terms of you can go and see it inside of my motivational courses. I realized I started my motivational courses. I realized no matter what that I had 3 months in between where I never was doing it. I realized I was giving up on it. I was never giving up. I was doing something else. I replaced it. I realized now I can do it. I can do it now. I have a different perspective. I realize it's much easier. I realize it's much easier to do it now. I realize it's much easier to do it now. I realize everything now. I realize I'm doing better. I realize I never degrade myself. I realize that my eye is never degrading anything. I realize that when I act out though, in masturbation, I realize that I have been degrading myself. I have. Because when you're acting out, you're never really doing it to grow. I realize you're doing it for pleasure. You're never doing it to grow. I need you to masturbate less. I realize that even sex, I realize when you're having more sex and more sex in your life, I realize although that it's more for pleasure. You have to understand that it's more for pleasure than it is for growth. You have to understand that even with your husband or wife, that when you're having sex, I promise you that you can be having sex all day long and never grow from it. I mean, the less you have sex in life, the better for you. I mean, the less you have sex, the more productive you are. I mean, I promise you that many people are going out and chasing many people to have sex. I mean, they're so desperate. I mean, they've got nothing else to do. I mean, those are druggers and people are drinking alcohol and going to the nightclubs and staying out late. I mean, they're staying out late. I'm inside my doors. I mean, I'm inside accommodation before 6 p.m. every single night. I mean, I get to have nice privacy for myself. I never have to be around stupid idiots. Whereas after 6 p.m. it's darkness. I realize many people in nighttime are very egotistical and I stay away from the streets. I go indoors, I feel safer. I feel more at peace. I'm alone. Although I learn from the time I get into my accommodation, I learn all day. I'm learning all day. I mean, during the day, I can go and see the sights. I mean, I see that there is a beautiful city out there in nighttime. You can go and see the lights and whatever. Whereas no matter what, I can, although give an extra hour and come back at 7 p.m. when it's a rare occasion. Whereas that it's just lights. I realize it's just a city. You have to realize that you have to go and see it anyway. I've seen it before. I realized in Brisbane I've seen it. I realize no matter what that it's more in the daytime. I need to go and do everything in the day in terms of the city. I realize after 6 p.m. you've got nothing to do in the city. I realize it's cold. I realize there's egotistical people out there in the city. I realize they're drinking. I realize they're smoking. I realize some people have guns in the street. I promise you, I don't know what you're doing there. I don't know why you're there. I promise you that you're either there to do drugs. I promise you, you're either there to go to a nightclub. I don't know why you're there. I promise you that if you're going out after 6 p.m., I promise you go to a leadership program at 9 p.m. I need you to go to a leadership program at 11 p.m. I promise you that you go somewhere and you drive specifically at night to go to a leadership program or somewhere that you're connecting with individuals in a professional manner that's going to grow you and where you can collaborate and where you can meet new people in a way that you can lift them only. I never need you to be searching for women or men in life. I realize no matter what, that you women have to be searching for a man. I realize that no matter what, it's really, really that you understand that women are the chaser and that men are the runner. You have to understand that women, although you still have to improve yourself. I realize that in my life, I'll just say for my life, I realize in my life, the woman is the chaser, I'm the runner. I realize that although the woman can be the chaser and also the runner can be the man in your life. You have to understand that also you ladies never have to chase. You never have to chase, and the man can chase you. I realize the man can chase you. I realize no matter what, that I never chase a woman. I realize that Jesus taught me something. I realize Jesus taught me to never chase a woman. I never chase a woman. I stick to the boundary now. I realize although that Jesus would say for a woman to never chase a man too. I label it, right? I label it. I can see the knowledge there. I realize that even woman must never ever chase a man. You understand? I realize that I'll never chase a woman. I'll never chase a woman. I realize that my mentors, or some of my mentors, such as Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki, chase their woman. I'll never chase my woman. I never care. I promise you, at 40 years of age, and I have no kids, I never fucking care. I promise you, I'll never fucking chase a woman. I have no time for them. I have no time for women in my life. I mean, I have time for them online and in real life to just uplift them. I never have time to chase them for sex and to degrade them. I can go and talk to them and have a nice conversation with them that's uplifting, that has my eye. I can be very selfish. I can say, I need you. I need you. I love you. I realize I'm just joking though. I'm just joking. I realize that she may take it offensively. I realize when she takes it offensively that I put my eye there and I said I love you and I need you. I realize when she runs away, I realize I don't care about her. I realize that she may call me a sexual harassing person. I never care. You have to realize that it's really about having fun. You have to understand that I was never even having fun in the first place in that situation. I was really growing myself with her. You have to understand that when you're speaking that way, you're still growing yourself. You still have your eye. I was never chasing her. I was just joking around. You have to understand that I was just being myself. I mean, there was a woman chasing me recently and I said, will you marry me? I mean, she just met me. I realized she just met me. I realized she just blocked me on Instagram. I realized no matter what, that you can see that she's never for me. I was just joking. You understand? I test women that way. I realized no matter what, that she's weak. I never cared. I mean, go and get someone else who's less. You understand? You have to understand that women and men must never ever chase. I promise you that women who are chasing men are going to lose. I promise you men who are chasing women are going to lose. I promise you that men and women who are never chasing each other, I promise you there's bond there. I promise you there's room for one woman or man. I promise you although that whoever chases first is more desperate. I promise you that I'm on the loose in terms of life, that I realize I'm on the loose in terms of life in a better way. I'm never in a negative way. I'm only in terms of life single to never mingle, although I can mingle in a joking manner. That's really growing me. I can mingle, I just have to grow my eye in that language. I have to say, I found you very attractive. I realize no matter what, that is a mingle. I realize that's a mingle. I love your eyes. I see you look like Bulbasaur from Pokemon. You have to realize, I just make it up. I make it up, and you have to understand that they have no idea. I realize no matter what, that most women will take me offensively. I never care. I realize that they may even cause a striffle and do drama, and I realize that many do. You have to also realize that in order for you to escalate, you need to just be yourself. You have to be yourself in a way that you're growing. You have to learn the skills. You have to learn the fundamental skills of life. You have to learn that Jesus would never chase women nor men. I promise you, Jesus would just be productive and teach. I promise you, I relate everything to Jesus because nobody else knows. I promise you, nobody knows except for Jesus. I promise you, in order for you to know thyself, you have to look at Jesus first. Although, guys, we'll leave you in this video. I promise you that I've grown somewhat in this video. I promise you that every single video I grow. I promise you that I may have been talking for 1 hour and 8 minutes. I've been speaking my eye the whole way through. I mean, I can now do these videos easily. I mean, it's a graceful moment for me. I mean, it's a graceful moment in my life to be able to do this. And I do it for Jesus Christ. Although always repeat Jesus Christ in my life because I realize that Jesus Christ helps me with everything. I although now pat myself on the back because I came from 1 minute videos to 3 hour videos a day. I mean, you have to realize that sometimes I do fail. I realize I do 2 hour videos a day. I realize no matter what, that sometimes my schedule never allows me to do it. I still have to improve my schedule. I still try to max out 3 hours every day. I realize I still have time. I still have time to do my next hour. I realize that it's only 11:10. I realize I can do it at 2 p.m. I mean, I can do it at 2 a.m. I scheduled it. I scheduled my next video at 2 a.m. I mean, I can do it. I can now realize that in the next 3 hours, I can upload my content. I can speak to some people online. I realize no matter what, that when you get tempted to do some pleasure, realize that you go and just let go. I mean, never act out in the first place. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, it's that simple to overcome masturbation and stay away from the pornography. I realize that it's never going to help you either. I realize it's never teaching you anything other than sex. I realize that you can go have sex in how Jesus would do it. I mean, you'll be the natural one. I mean, I related myself to having sex like Jesus would. I realized that when I picture Jesus having sex with a woman, I'll go and have sex that way. I mean, that everybody else lies about what sex is. I admit that Jesus would be kind while having sex. I mean, he would have passionate sex. I mean, it's really missionary sex. I realize no matter what, that it's really smooth and really tender and kind. I mean, there's really love going on. I mean, that kind of sex. I mean, there's nothing degrading about Jesus. You have to understand. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope that you share this video for Jesus. I realize no matter what, that many people will laugh in this video. I am a funny person. I do it for Jesus. I realize no matter what, that you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys in the next video. I love you guys.